Okay, today we're going to be doing a first run review of the North Face Vectiv Summit Pro 3, which was kindly sent to me by the North Face about 3 days ago now. I've been wanting to get out on the trails pretty quickly, so we're going to do 2 laps of Bold Park here in Perth, which is a nice kind of 5k loop with about 110 meters of vert, so just enough that I can feel what the shoe is like. Pretty firm, hard-packed limestone trails, so not going to be the best test for how good it goes technically, but I'm not sure that this shoe is really going to be built for that. I think this is going to be more of a kind of long distance cruiser. That's just my vibes right now. In terms of some specs and a little bit of a rundown, we have a big stack of around 43 mil of foam in the heel with a 6mm drop, according to Running Warehouse America. We've got a midsole which is made up of a PIBA EVA blend, which is the kind of carrier foam. It's what this white foam is, wrapping all the way around the shoe. And then on the inside you can see this kind of yellow layer. They have a aliphatic TPU, their Dream foam, which is written on the outside, which is a bit confusing. So firmer, more resilient, but still reasonably energetic PIBA EVA foam on the outside, and then they've combined that with a TPU on the middle. There's a stiff carbon plate, the more traditional super shoe carbon plate, running all the way through the shoe, and then we've got this recycled carbon network which sits on top as a kind of little frame around your foot. So the carbon plate, the carbon network sits on top, then the TPU layer between your foot and the carbon plate, then the carbon plate, and then this frame of EVA PIBA foam. Pretty complex setup. I really hope that it comes together quite well. In terms of the weight, all of those components are going to add up. They're coming in at 320 grams on my men's size 10.5, which means that this is definitely on the heavier side of things, even for a trail runner. So this is probably not going to be that kind of nimble, rapid kind of sprint style trail racer. I've already tried it on. I know that it fits a little bit shorter, but mainly true to size. So I float 10.5. I definitely need the 10.5 here. So I think if you're looking to buy this shoe, half size up if you float between half sizes, but go true to size otherwise. I'm going to give it a go. It's just raining a little bit right now, which is quite nice. It's probably the first rainy run of the season. We're going to go for 2 laps, which should get me around 10Ks. I've got an hour of easy running to do this morning, so 2 laps plus a little bit of a dog leg to get that final bit of mileage. So yeah, going to lace up and see how they go. I'll give some impressions on the run and then give you a summary of my thoughts once I get back. One thing to point out already is that there is a bit of a difference in the lineup for the North Face. So they have their Endurus, the Vectiv Summit Sky, and then also this Pro Summit 3. And there's a 4th model which I just cannot remember right now. But I have the Vectiv Summit Sky at home and it fits a half size longer than this shoe. So size 10 in the Vectiv Summit Sky has worked really well, probably fitting longer than this 10.5 in the Vectiv Summit Pro 3, which is a little bit of an issue. If you've got a lineup of shoes which you're trying to encourage people to buy 1 or 2 of, it's pretty important that they all fit the same. So that's going to be one knock on the lineup, I guess, is that you need to be careful. You need to ideally try it on in store or measure your foot up and make sure that you end up with the right size. So yeah, a little bit shorter than the Vectiv Summit Sky 2. There's not going to be that perfect translation, which there probably should be. So Bold Park in Perth is like a little patch of bushland quite close to the beach, which is quite special because most of the time this stuff just all gets built through. So it has one big main loop, which is Zamia Trail, about that 5k loop, which is what I'm going to be doing today. But they also have a network of other trails which jump on and off it, which is pretty fun. So you can kind of make your own adventure, do a different loop every time. There's probably around 40k's of trails in here total if you were to do all of them, which is pretty cool for somewhere close to the city. This is probably the main spot that people come to for a little bit of a trail run without having to go up to the Perth Hills. So yeah, most of the trails here are this kind of smoother limestone road, which is a bit of a shame in terms of like actually wanting to come to the trails to offload a bit. You know, like I'm coming here because you want to avoid running on concrete all the time. You do get a bit more broken up stuff, but overall it is still pretty firm. So yeah, as I said, like it's not going to be a testing how well this shoe can handle off-road, rolly gravel or sticks and stones. Really is just seeing how it goes on the up and downs and how it feels without being completely on concrete, just plodding around on the footpaths. Okay, very early impressions is that this shoe runs much lighter than it feels, especially on the downhills. Picking up in hand, putting it on, it's a big shoe, there's a lot of bulk to it, but once you can kind of engage the rocker, get a little bit of force into the foam, I do think it runs like a shoe which weighs 290 grams instead, so don't be too put off by the weight. I think that this does still have a good range of dynamic feel. Again, early impressions, but I'm really loving these downhill sections where you can kind of rely on the rocker to kind of just roll you along. Very, very nice feeling. I'm definitely a believer in the speed benefits of trail running. I always feel like when I get onto a trail, get a bit of vert once or twice a week, mainly in the long run, I always just seem to perform better in races and sessions, build up that leg strength, just seem to have a bit more resilience as well. If you're kind of just copping a bit of hills as you're rolling through your longie and you don't really have any choice about it, it's much easier to kind of push through a little bit more pain at the end of your session. You kind of just get used to it, I reckon. Something to be said for it. Big fan of it. Going to be trying to use that a lot this winter. Getting here to Bold Park, getting up into the Perth Hills for some longies. We've also got a few trail relay races organised, so next weekend, Margaret River Ultra, doing the final leg, 13Ks, which is, as I mentioned, one of the reasons I want to try this shoe out. Not quite persuaded just yet. And then we've also got Transcend Ultra Relay, which is up in the Perth Hills in August. So I'm looking forward to that. Have those two races to mix in with some 5 and 10K racing during the winter. Should be good. I have got a lot of trail super shoes and just trail running shoes in general to try out as well. So we've got this one, Vectiv Summit Sky. We've got our hands on the Tecton X3, Deviate Nitro Elite Trail. I've borrowed a pair of Meta Fuji Trail as well. And I've also got the Agravix Speed Ultra sitting around as well. So hopefully with all of these trail runs, should be able to add together a nice big roundup of all the trail super shoes, because there's just not a lot of reviews out there about them. So I'm going to try to put out a little bit more content about that myself. So yeah, keep an eye out for that. Okay, we're done most of the uphill section on the back half of Bold Park, the west side. It's like 700 meters of trail which just keeps on going up and up until you reach the top of Raybold Hill. I would say the uphill ability of this shoe is perfectly average. Thought the 6mm drop might work the calves a bit more, but I think with the rockering, with the stiffness of the plates, I think it ends up being about 50-50 split between the calves and the quads. It's not particularly favouring one or the other, where some shoes like the Mont Blanc Carbon from Ultra, obviously 0mm drop, absolutely cook your calves out, or the Ultra Fly from Nike, Endorphin Edge from Saucony, I definitely find put a bit more strain through the quads. So yeah, nothing to really report there, I guess. Depends a bit on your running style, but it's not going to kind of lean too hard into either muscle group going uphill, at least for me. That's my experience just there. Okay, first lap done. couple of impressions from that first 5Ks. Firstly, I think this shoe breaks in quite nicely. First 2 or 3Ks, I felt like it was quite a stiff, rocketed ride. It wasn't anything super special, but I think the midsole foam has definitely warmed up, compressed a bit, starting to get a bit more travel into that forefoot especially. And I do feel like there is a healthy rebound coming from it, which you would expect from a shoe of this price point, of this kind of status with all the marketing. It is giving me a bit extra amongst the other kind of high stacked rocket trail shoes. So good bit of bounce here, takes a bit of time to break in. Second thing is, it's not as heavy on foot as it felt lacing up. I do think with the rocker, with a bit of extra bounce from the foam, it does counteract things quite nicely. The grip so far has been decent. I don't think it's the most aggressive lug out there, but then I don't think that this shoe is built for aggressive terrain. So if you want aggressive, go for the Vectiv Summit Sky. If you want something which is comfortable, rolling, is going to keep you protected for a long stint on the trails, I think that this shoe could be one of the more comfortable racing shoes that I've worn. The upper fits well. I was a little bit worried about the toe box room, but I haven't felt my big toe on the end of the shoe. I feel like there's a decent bit of volume which keeps you secure but doesn't compress your feet too much. So far, pretty happy. In terms of a few technical sections, it's been fine. I still don't think this is going to be the shoe's forte. I do think this is going to be better suited to more gentle rolling hills, some medium technicality in terms of a little bit of gravel, maybe the odd root or stick. But if you're doing rock hopping in this shoe, I think there is better options out there. Getting towards the end of the second leg right now. Legs are starting to tire a little bit. Had a 5K race yesterday, so still recovering from that. But I do feel like this shoe has done a really good job of offsetting a lot of the impact of going downhill and the kind of variation of the trail. I feel like it's a big absorber of the force that you put into it, which is quite a nice experience. I don't think it's the most dynamic. I don't think it's the most exciting. But in terms of protection and also stability, like the structure to the midsole, I think it's one of the best that I've had. So if you're running on smooth terrain, I don't think you're going to get any surprises in terms of, oh, you suddenly get thrown off because you hit a rock. If you're doing super technical stuff, I do think there's going to be a limit to the bulk of the shoe. But for everything else, I think there's a lot of security that a lot of people would get from a shoe like this. Okay, I've got about 4 minutes left. I've overshot the car a little bit. Gonna turn around and try put a bit of pace into this shoe. See whether it can actually move even with the bulk. Maybe a bit more bounce from the super foam, who knows. We'll give it a go. Rightio, 20 seconds short, we'll leave that. Pretty happy with that first run. That last little bit of pace definitely proves to me that this is not my kind of all-out trail racing shoe at all, which I knew it wouldn't be, but I do think this is a really nice protective one. I reckon this could be the kind of shoe that you take for 50Ks and above, backyard ultras where you're rolling along and you maybe need a bit more grip. If it's your first time trail race and you just really are anxious about staying protective and having that structure underfoot, I think it could do a decent job there. But in terms of all-out pace, I do think there is better options out there from the North Face themselves as well. The Vectiv Summit Sky is much lighter, much more nimble, and that's probably what I'm going to be using for the Margaret River 13k segment I'm going to be doing. But I'm really happy with how this shoe has gone, despite some initial reservations around the weight and the bulk. I don't think that this is a super shoe in the sense that it helps you run faster for longer. I think this is more a super shoe in the sense that it helps you run comfortably for a really long period of time. So I think you could roll your daily training pace and get through 100 Ks, if that's what your training has kind of got you to. I think you can get through, 100 Ks feeling pretty comfortable. The rocker is nice and smooth. The foam has a good deal of resilience, but does break in a bit and gives you a little bit extra as you keep on going. And the structure underfoot, I was a little bit skeptical of the double carbon plate setup. It's often a bit of a buzzword, carbon plate on the trail, everyone just jumps on it. But I do think that they've actually managed to put it together in a way which makes sense. Like, I think you get the stiffness and the roll through from the bottom carbon plate and then that recycled network on top. I do think just kind of gives you a little bit more resistance to outside and inside rolling. So for me, supination, rolling outwards like that, I just didn't do it really, which is unusual for me. I'm a big supinator and a lot of my trail shoes cop it on the outside edge, and that will also be reduced a little bit because I am running a little bit slower in this shoe compared to those other ones. But I did just feel that extra bit of guidance back towards the midline, which is something that a lot of people are going to be searching for. I think the upper is good. I do still feel a little bit annoyed about the inconsistencies between the models in the North Face's line, but this one here, I laced it up once, it stayed laced up, the fit was secure, no heel slip, no blisters, maybe a little bit of pressure above the toes just in terms of the kind of rockering of the sole. I felt like my big toe was kind of pushed up towards the toe box a little bit, but other than that I'm really happy with that. And the outsole, I think the grip itself is quite good, but the lugs are pretty shallow as far as trail shoes go, which I think speaks more to what the North Face think this shoe should be used for. Like, I really just don't think you should be using this if you're going to be doing big rock hopping, doing big descents with sticks and stones and roots, and it's obviously not going to be great for really muddy courses. I think the kind of forte of this shoe, in my mind, if I was going to pick the perfect run to use this shoe on, it would probably be this Bold Park, or it would be down south on some foresty kind of areas. Bib track, if you're from WA, it's our kind of, it's about 1,000 Ks long. It just runs through the forest. It's got some more soft trails on the ground, more kind of soil compared to gravel. I think you're going to get a good deal of grip from that, but you're not going to have the kind of instability of the sticks and stones. So smoother trails, a little bit of vert, but mainly just when you're spending a lot of time on feet. From the first impressions, $400 is a lot of money to pay for any shoe, and I do think there is an element of that being a little bit too much. But in terms of the amount of engineering that's gone into this shoe, the double carbon plates, the amount of foam underfoot, I can definitely see some people justifying that as a good pickup, especially if you've put a year or so into training towards a big race, which you really want to be secure over. I don't think it's going to be a super short-lived shoe. I think it's going to go the distance. The construction seems to be quite sturdy. So yeah, I think 400 is a lot, but I don't think it's outrageous for the amount of shoe and the amount of technology you're getting underfoot, if that makes sense. It's obviously not the best value, I don't think. I think if you want a similar sensation, there are other shoes out there, but for now, I'm okay with that price point, even if it is quite high. So yeah, good first outing in the Pro Summit 3. I highly encourage you to get in store and try it out. It is quite a different experience from some of these other trail super shoes. It's not quite the same style, but yeah, quite happy with that first run. Keep an eye out for some more comparisons moving forward.